How is it going, everybody? Welcome here at the Ferrum podcast, the third time that we are here today. And we have two new people, of course, very excited. So I am, of course, Ruda Fuda. We got the usual suspects. How you guys doing today?
Great.
Doing pretty
You guys
good.
want to introduce yourselves? Who are you people?
You can go first, Kino.
All right, well, I'm Kino. Spoilers. I'm Kino. I'm from South Florida. I am the main TO for our Pokken scene down here, as well as a avid Pikachu enthusiast. Yes. I play him in like every game, so.
I think that's in my Twitter bio also. I think I'm a Pikachu enthusiast. So was
nice.
Brunch.
We got something in common.
The important stuff, of course.
Yes.
Oh, I'm Suar. I'm in New England, formerly from Florida, formerly from MDVA. But I started in Smash, and I am with the team Panda Global, and I lead PG Stats, which makes the Panda Global ranking. So the whole discussion we're going to have burn down Twitter in about 3 weeks is because of me.
Oh, it's coming out. I know it's coming out soon. Forget how close it is, though.
We haven't announced that yet.
Well, that's how
that
soon
explains
it is.
that.
That's why you don't know. Of course. And then we got McDareth. How you doing today, McDareth?
I'm doing well. Skype is being weird, so Suar is giant, and I don't know how to fix it. So,
Really?
it's like super zoomed in because whenever you talk, like I can make it small, but whenever you talk, it's gonna force it to be large again until I mouse back over. But then like,
Oh, I see. I actually see it on the stream. I'm gonna sit back then.
I like that. You know, just making sure we can hear what you say by getting great details of your face out there.
it's gonna be what it is though. But yeah, I'm doing well.
Doing well. Awesome. Good to hear, my friends. Well, let's talk a little bit about Pokken before we get into this whole rankings discussion with Suar here. So, Kino, I heard you attended a pretty slam and jamming event, a little while ago. You want to give your thoughts on Burst Attack here?
Yeah, of course. So, Burst Attack, definitely one of the best events I've ever been to. Just not even for Pokken, but just in general. It was super well ran. Shout outs to Zyflare and the whole team and Alistair for organizing it and putting it together. But there was a ton of talent, a ton of amazing matches on stream, and everything was just very, very, very well done. I think it was definitely an example of how good a grassroots tournament can be. It's something definitely for other grassroots tournaments to definitely aspire to be.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough, man. And there was a ton of good players there too, and a lot of upsets, I guess you can say. I mean, Twixie going out at fourth. I want to say right, fourth. Twixie going out at fourth, and Toasty taking the whole thing. What were your thoughts on that?
Twixie was so close. So he lost to Roxo in losers, and Roxo is like one of the only people in the world that pretty consistently beats Twixie. Roxo's got a very solid record on him. So Twixie getting fourth, he's very consistently top eighting events, but losing to Roxo was not as expected because it also went to game 5 and Twixie absolutely could have taken it. But, Roxo has beaten him multiple times in the past. So I wouldn't consider that an upset loss for Twixie there. But, he was definitely one of the players that was favorited to take the whole event. I believe he was seeded first as well. But he did an amazing job. Toasty winning the tournament. Toasty's also an amazing player. He's got a bunch of great wins under his belt, both tournament wins and player wins. What was surprising to me and to a lot of people is he actually ended up winning the tournament with like Sceptile. He didn't even break out the Lucario in the end. He went all Sceptile against Sir Spud in quarters. He went he tried Decidueye against Double and that didn't work, but then he broke out the Lucario against Double and then again went Sceptile against Roxo in grand finals. So that was pretty surprising. But his Sceptile's putting in some work.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, taking first at Thalia Burst Attack.
I was trash talking it a lot also. And then it won the tournament. I was like, well, never mind. It's pretty good, I guess.
Sceptile has made me sad many times.
Yeah. Oh really? Oh yeah. How does that make you feel right now? Right now?
Toasty's a good, cool guy. I was glad he won. Just Sceptile.
We had a lot of pretty excellent performances from a lot of other players who we don't see too often. Sir Spud, specifically putting on the most amazing show. He he played so well against Scats. He like the entire time he was really showing how far he's come as a player, and I think he's the player that impressed upon me the most that tournament. He was like from the last time I played him was final round, and the just difference in skill from then to now is so incredible. We also saw Kuki. This was her first tournament using Pikachu, since she has switched mains to Pikachu, which I love because I can definitely learn a lot.
Do you know
from her.
why she switched? Like I saw.
Braixen's
I read
boring.
I guess, but she was just so good with breaks. Yeah. I just read it to her ranked one time. She's playing Pikachu. Then I see her at a tournament. She's now making Pikachu.
Amazing with Braixen, and now she's amazing with Pikachu. But I think she just enjoys playing Pikachu more, and I don't blame her. Pikachu's pretty great. But no, she did fantastic. Of course, she and I won the doubles event there, mostly due to her. And her Pikachu is definitely put on another excellent show.
Fair enough.
She got just shy of top 8. I think she got ninth or 13th. I don't remember.
Nice. I like that. Some representation, people you don't generally see, making it. And of course, H2 doing pretty well, making sixth.
Yeah, knocking out Thulius.
Yes. Yeah,
that
was
exactly
a crazy
win
for
H2.
Yeah, good wins all around.
Thulius plays Weavile,
right? Mewtwo.
Oh, man. I guess I saw about where he played him.
Yeah, I mean, I know Thulius can play like every character, but Mewtwo's his go-to in tournaments.
And I think literally right before we started the podcast, the one thing Thalia said was like, I wish I liked playing fighting games more than labbing all the time. So like Thulius is like the lab monster, man. He's always testing new things out, but not just with his characters, with everybody. So, I mean, Thulius naturally can just play everybody because he knows just so much about the game. But yeah, so that's the cool part about Burst Attack was, first of all, it was in a really cool place. It was grassroots, and the fact that it was streamed almost entirely grassroots. It was done on Feng Shaman's account, so all those NorCal guys really just came together and just threw together a tournament, and it ended up being really well run. Of course, you'd expect something like community-driven, community-funded, community everything. So shout outs to all you guys who made Thalia Beach, Thalia Beach, and Burst Attack possible. And I would have loved to have attended it. So please make more tournaments like that, man. These tournaments, I'm down for some beach tournaments and a beach house.
Yeah. Come on. That was the coolest part. There was just a beach right down. You had to go down a couple rocks, which definitely looked like they could kill someone, but it's part of the experience, I guess. But yeah, the beach was really cool too.
That's fair.
Had a little bonfire right outside at night. Also, it was pretty sick.
It's the aesthetic. That's what you're
exactly.
But speaking of future tournaments and what's coming up next, we have 3 events coming up for the future for you guys. Unfortunately, there's some conflict in the dates there. But I highly encourage anyone who is considering going to either NEC, Genesis 5, or Frosty Faustines, one or the other. Man, just attend these events. NEC, we're going to talk a little about later, about what's going on there. But if you guys can attend, I attended it last year. Super fun event, really well run. Loved the entire event. Genesis 5, of course, known for running fighting game tournaments for years now. And Frosty Faustins, again, another one of those tournaments that just tons of times it's been run. And I don't know who exactly running the bracket there, but I'm sure it's going to be great. The one thing I did want to talk about really quickly is I think for the first time ever, we have 2 big tournaments on the same weekend. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I'm sad.
Nice.
At least they're not nearby.
That's true. Yeah,
they're pretty spread out.
So,
I think the thing
if you can't go to one, go to the other.
The thing I'm kind of sad about is Genesis definitely is going to get. I mean, a lot of people for Pokken already signed up for Frosty Faustine before Genesis added Pokken. So I really wanted Genesis to be a big turnout, so it'd be a big thing. People say, "Oh, this is see a highlight of it," but it's probably not going to be that. But hopefully, still enough people. I'm planning on going to Genesis still. Are you going to Genesis, Suar?
I don't know yet.
You do go. You got to test that Weavile out on a bracket soon.
I know.
Fair enough. There you go. But either way, I mean, the cool thing about Genesis is that you might get some crossovers. I know at Evo we had a ton. The first Evo we had a ton of Smash entrants. Even the first Evo we had a ton of Smash entrants to Pokken. So you get that crossover. You have a really big name. Oh yeah, I mean there's a ton of players. There's 1,000 entrants. A lot. I think 40 or 50% of the people didn't even show up to their pools. But, either way, still a 400, 500-man tournament for Pokken, the biggest it ever was. And it was because you have those cross-platform guys. I mean, you have examples like Coach Steve, who are just destroying in Pokken, as well as in 14 other fighting games. He's just a monster, man, a monster. So you have these crossover guys. I'd love to see more of that. Genesis 5 might be the opportunity for that. We'll see. So tell you guys listening that aren't a Pokken player, and you're going to Genesis 5, just enter. What's the worst thing that can happen? You're going to get bodied. At least you learned something. You had some fun. Just support the game, support the community, and I think you'll find it's a really, really fun game. But either way, do you guys have anything about those two events? Any specifics you want to talk about before we move on here?
Well, I know Frosty Faustings has a lot of good success in running multiple games at the same time. Genesis, this will be its first time. So regardless of the fact that it is the bigger brand, Frosty Faustings definitely has a very tight-knit community behind it that I think will still make it a successful event for the scope that it set out to have. But I don't know. I think Genesis hosting it might improperly give the impression that, it's going to be like an Armada Mango Game 5 situation on the main stage. Like, I think it might be like a very side minimal thing because it's the first time versus Frosty Faustings, which, is a lot more intimate. It's a lot more, run by the people there and everyone knows each other and you have a lot of crossover. Whereas Genesis, I don't know that to be the case the first time around.
Yeah, because Genesis 4, they had... I can't remember who streamed the fighting games, like the fighting game side, because they had like Street Fighter at Genesis 4, and I think another one, but I can't remember which one. But they also had Rivals of 8 there, and another one were all on 2GG. Like 2GG did off-stream Smash 4, and then did Rivals, like top 8.
Yeah, I don't even remember that, which kind of speaks to it as well.
Yeah.
I know they had a lot of streaming issues last year too, so that does kind of bite. But if I were to choose one over the other, and you had the free choice to do one over the other, like barring all circumstances, I think supporting Frosty Faustings would be not necessarily the way to go, but something to take into deeper consideration only because they're not carried by Smash, whereas Genesis is. Right. So, one will exist without it next year if they have to make that decision, and that'd likely be Genesis, so it's a little hard because they're on the same weekend. And for the sake of exposure, I don't know that Genesis 5, it does have that exposure. It's just, it's going to be a side stream. It's not going to be the main event Smash. Frosty Faustings treats all its games equally from what I saw. So that is a benefit in that sense. So it is a little tricky. It's no fault to Genesis or anything, but they have definitely a priority there the whole time. So that's important to take into consideration.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, it's a very good point. Frosty Faust has been doing a billion different games, and they even had a.
It's like 35 or something.
Yeah, what's that freaking ice block climbing game?
Tower Fall or Dark Tower?
Freaking somebody in Pokken. It's called has a weird name. Someone's gonna call me out for it.
Is it the anime one?
It's like Caroline or something
like
Catherine.
that.
It is Caroline.
Catherine. There you go. Yeah. Catherine. Yeah, they had freaking Catherine. And I watched that whole event. It was just freaking dope. So there you go. Support the smaller, more variety tournaments. But either way, that's what's coming up for you guys, all you Pokken heads. So if you can't attend either of them, God, go support your events. Go support Pokken community in general. But with that, since we have Suar with us today, the definitely knows a lot more about how ranking systems work than most people. So let's get into talking about, Pokken did release a top 50 rankings. I don't know if you've looked into much of it, but we did have, a system that we used. But Ark kind of, bringing you in here. Tell us a little bit about the PGR process. I know you guys have a whole team involved, but from your point of view, what kind of stuff goes into making rankings? How difficult is it? Of course, you're used to the backlash of, well, why is this player higher? So give us a little bit of your insight here, my friend.
Pokken got that too, funny enough. I remember people...
And do any ranking system well. Are you kidding me? That's just how rankings work.
Yeah, so it all started when I literally DM'd Bear asking about it. Does PG want to get into the whole realm of rankings? Does it want to get involved in community building from that aspect, he forwarded me to Alan, who is one of the co-owners of Panda. And then from there, Alan and I developed this mentor-mentee relationship where he would instill in me the values that he thought a leader would have. And it was really through like the advice he would give and the sort of direction that he wanted things to have. But he also was talking to Zam, a SoCal Toon Link, and Dom, a Villager Chic Cloud caster from New Jersey, who were all interested in the same thing, actually. And we got in a group chat and an Excel sheet with like 25 tabs, and like 2.5 weeks later, we had like our first rankings, and they were awful. They were like, we had, because we had to determine a couple of things. The game had been out for 1.5 years. The first major tournament was Apex, I believe. God, I don't even remember. Well, I guess it's over here. Like the latest tournament, like I think a Genesis had happened. We had Renai and Zero happen. We'd had, a lot of these, like in the recent past where Smash got popular, we definitely had those events to factor in. And then we had the really old stuff like Paragon LA and Paragon Orlando. Like we're talking.
I was at Paragon Orlando. That was a good.
I know, me too. I was there too. That was where Mewtwo King would compete, and Leffen competed.
Yep, Leffen played Diddy Kong, man.
I know, and he did well. He got like 9th or 7th. Those were the days. So we had like Apex, CEO, Evo 2015. These are like in FGC years, like eons ago. We had Super Smash Con, the first one, the first PAX Prime.
Yeah, that's right.
Big House 5. We had MLG World Finals. We had the first 2GGT with ESAM. I'm just looking at it now, like it's hilarious. 2GGT False Awakens, like when False coming so close to beating the curse, but then Tyrant stopped him. Shots Fired 2, which was like this. I remember it was this really hyper stacked random event that had a lot of money. The first glitch in MDVA, the Foe Saga, Pound 2016, Midwest Mayhem 2, New Fish, it's just like a New York event. I don't even know how it made it on. And then 2GT Fresh Saga. So those are the first tournaments. And long story short, like deciding how things would count. People didn't want us to count like anything before Evo or anything before like 2016. Like once it all came out. But we just thought, whatever, fair is fair. So you'd have all these crazy results from back then with like awful patches. And we were still going through patches at that point. So it was all kind of like, you're kind of like picking your poison here. So we had developed the rankings, but the biggest thing that Alan had suggested was like how to publish the rankings. So we came up with these player cards. We had Keith from Panda Global, our best and the only graphics artist that on this side of the States that like has really just changed how everything happened in terms of like, promotion or like display. He had made the graphics for like the player cards, and then we wanted to have this not only be like a, because PRs for the most part in regions revolve around a tag and a character, and that's it. Maybe like a small time sponsor, but we had actually went ahead and done the player aspect. So having a player-centered system so that you could look at it as a catalog of people that were really good if you were an outside org looking in or an internal org that was already in the game and wanted to invest more. And so that's where we started to do like pictures of players, and I know Kino would know that Florida took after like the PGR with one of its PR releases when you did the pictures a while ago. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Sam picture, MVD took a picture. I remember Child took, like, you had like, but it was like picture centered and player centered, and most PRs aren't. PRs, like they have a theme.
They're like, go on.
Yeah. Well, Florida history, but like most PRs don't have a theme and blah blah blah. But this one we made it to be like a package deal that everybody could see without even knowing what the hell the game is. And so that involved a lot of research, getting people's names, getting people's regions. I think we put Mars as Tri-State, even though I knew he wasn't. But like, then you learn about like production, and like then Fiasco, one of the OG Smash content creators who no longer does it anymore. He's retired, but Fiasco made the cleanest videos, and the first video was narrated by Esam, and I had huge reservations against that because, you know, like, it was our project and I wanted to, like, you know, be the voice for it and all this stuff, but then you also learn about reach and you learn about impressions and optics, and like Esam's videos so far had more views than like the other iterations after because he hadn't narrated it, but he also didn't narrate it. He did like Esam opinions the whole time. So that was valuable in of itself, but also not really what we wanted in the end because it was like biased, which is fine because it made it like clickable for many people because they wanted to know and they wanted to see. And it was also new, so it was all like, you know, causing this buzz. So from then on, like, we had this like ragtag team. We had this like really funny production that like came out of the efforts of like a lot of like elbow grease and tears and sweat. And then, you know, it was created. And the big thing is that Panda had a lot of great networking for it to push it through its own channels, to have other people be interested, other orgs, and eventually people did gain interest in it and would sign because of it. Definitely not official, but it became de facto, which is all that really matters in this scene. And slowly but surely it dominated the language, it changed the culture, and that's where it kind of got really crazy because like you would hear people in every part of the country just be like PGR set win, PGR set count, PGR win, PGR player, PGR tournament, and then, you know, going into like the middle, PGR V2, like the second season, that's when we started to like think more about like, well, you know, the first time we had a lot of problems because we didn't know which tournaments to count and which tournaments not to count. Like the first one was really just kind of like, I mean, was it relevant? Yes. Was it not? No. Was anyone important there? Then no. And how to determine who's important was also another issue. So we started to kind of like, you know, make like a tier system or like how to rate tournaments and call them stuff, and like they have to have at least this like certain amount of qualifications and things like that. And we didn't really perfect that until last season. And even this season we improved more on it. But then we became this engine for tournament marketing. So tournaments wanted to be rated S tier, A tier, or B tier, C tier, and all that. And as it became more and more common, and now it's like the language, you know, people would sort of like look at tournaments now and then see them as like destinations and choose to go one over the other based on the tier if they were a top player, because they know if they won an S tier, they'd be more relevant in the conversation than if they won just a bunch of C tiers and B tiers. So that created, you know, its own problems and its own, you know, boons, because at the same time, a lot of people could like easily understand S tier and decide what they wanted to do. Or if a tournament was a C tier, easily, like, again, decide what they wanted to do. But then, like, you know, then everything was an S tier in the summer, and that's because our standards were basically like, you know, if you're going to get the top 5 players in the world under one roof, it's going to be for good reason. Well, then this year we had those sagas that all had, you know, like $10,000, $20,000 pop bonuses, and then those players would keep coming, and so you'd have these S tiers, and then of course Smash, Conshine, et cetera, et cetera. So bring it all back. We're here now. We have 9 people. We brought on Giant, who makes our database so that we can like import tournaments and not do things by hand. I was literally able to print out all the head-to-heads and interactions for 2017 for everybody at the 2GGC finals, like in a click. And Practical Task imported it, gave it to me, I printed it out, and we were fine. And that was really important. And then Practical Task, we brought on a Melee head, who's a frame data freak. He had given a lot of advice on TAFA on how to make their rankings. And since Melee has Melee'd on me with opinion-based subjective rankings, and we don't, he saw differences that we could implement to make our rankings more effective. And so we brought him on, and then he started creating the algorithm to be more robust, because through all the tests, Glicko, Ginkgo, Glicko 2, fucking Spin the Bottle, like everything, you know, doesn't exactly produce. Like tennis, True Skill, ELO, everything, like they aren't accurate after a certain extent. At least for our format, it doesn't work out. and there's a lot of noise that's created, and you might get like a really accurate top 20, but then it goes really crazy after that, or you might get a really accurate, you know, overall top 50, but the first top 10 are really like not well defined. So, you know, now we're at a really good place, and I'm going to announce more on that, how it works later. But basically, like head-to-heads and who you outplace is what we're looking at. We did have one season where we valued peaks a lot, and of course that got many people upset because, like, you know, Ally wins Evo, so he got to ride on that for a little bit. But yeah, it turned from, you know, then we got Spike, who was our full-time graphics artist, instead of using Keith, who was like juggling a billion different projects. We got Poppy, Mayday, and Dom shifted roles to be writers, because then the other thing we did was we wrote articles on all these people, and these articles would be shared, or people would learn about these players. And then it became this whole packaged thing that like every 6 months, like you'd have this new content on top players created from a reputable source that was really in-depth and high quality and easy to understand, and sponsors were all over it. So there is like veritable proof that many people got signed because they got on the PGR, because they got higher on the PGR, because they weren't on the PGR that caused contention. I do know for a fact that, you know, there is a certain top player that isn't signed anymore, that he wasn't on the PGR for one season, and although he did come back last season, for the period of time he wasn't on it, it caused some friction between his sponsor because he wasn't ranked, you know, but he also hadn't gotten the results. So, you know, it became dogma, you know, like you gotta be on this thing to be relevant. You gotta be on this thing for so much. And we've seen people grow from it. In the beginning, like I said, it was like this new thing. So people were kind of like, okay, what does this mean? Then ESPN would put in their articles, PGR, Panda Global Ranked Player. Then streams and commentators say it every other sentence. And then people started putting in their bios, and then now everybody puts in their bio immediately. Some people even have different seasons in their bio. So like on V2 they were 18th, on V3 they're 27th, and like that's like, it holds that much relevance. So that's pretty much like a quick history lesson on it. We also added, yeah, like I said, Mayday, Poppy, Spike, myself, Juddy. Was added like in the very early days because he was like our Japanese correspondent, and like he knew all about the Japan tournaments, and then we had to factor in how they do things because they don't use money. And it grew wild. It grew from 3 people to like now 9. And then when we do the PGR, not this time, but like last season, you know, we had like 15 people involved at one point. We had people making music, people subtitling, like Paradin and Suinoko. We had people... we had D1 narrate the last one, so it becomes like this huge community project. It's a lot of work, and we'll be changing a lot actually for next season in terms of how it's going to be out, which I'll be announcing soon. But it'll be very different. I think in this age of digital media that we're in, where people don't like reading so much, we're going to be adapting to that. So, you know, it's a pretty big thing because like Reddit summaries would kill us. You know, we'd post our thing and like click the website to read more, but people just post the list and just want to talk about the list. So we'll be changing stuff on that, and you'll hear about it soon. But, you know, to me, this whole project has taught me so much about like social media and marketing and how to make things appear a certain way. And the other thing too, just to like wrap it up, we're really feedback based. And one of the things we incorporated was the X Factor system, because we did want to have people feel like they affected the rankings, even though they don't. But like have their opinion, you know, kind of like be weighed in on. Like the X Factor doesn't change anything, but it still shows up, and it shows how people think you're really good or really bad despite your results, or they're right on it, and you know you have a 0 X Factor. But you know, it was really cool to have that, and like each season, like we take in all loads of feedback. The player card evolution from like the first one, like I don't know, like McDareth, if you can even like pull it up. Like, are you able to pull up the player cards? Are you able to show that on stream or no?
Yeah, you can send it to me on like Twitter. I can put them up.
Okay, so global ranking. So like if you look the first player card, okay, let me get Trella right here. Let me get Trella, and then let me get this season where we have, I don't know, the second one. and then let's do one more season. Sorry if this bites up time, but whatever. You're getting it here first.
I can get it.
So let me show you on Twitter. So send it to you on Twitter, you said?
Yeah.
All right, let me. So do I show you the link or the image?
Image is easier, but either works.
Okay, so I'm saving Trella. I'm saving Ned. Oh my God, Ned. And then this season.
Yo,
oh my God.
I almost forgot Ned played until I saw him at the last Midwest Mayhem.
I know.
He came to SoCal this maybe 3 months ago or something for what event was that? Was that the 2GG event? He ended up taking like pretty close to top 8. He might have exactly top 8. I think like 7th place.
All right, so I'm sending it to McDareth now. I guess how can I see your stream, McDareth? I guess I have to go on Twitch or. Well, I'll just whatever.
I'll tell you which one's up. And you can.
Okay, so I'm sending you all 3 now. So I'm sending you Trella first. Everyone just has to see this. This is like ugly middle school pictures.
The evolution.
But it's also so telling of like how you have to like reinvent the wheel sometimes, even though you don't have to. But I just sent McDareth them. So let me know when you got Trella up, and then I'll talk a little bit about that. So basically, like again, like we wanted these to be player centered, so it has to have a lot of information about them. These are essentially players like report cards, players like their crest, if you will, when it comes to like being recognized for whatever it is that they did that season, who they are, all that. You know, it like adds to their branding. So we had to make sure it looked like presentable, it looked nice, it was clear, it was also like celebratory and all this other stuff. So do you have Trellas up?
And it's up.
Yeah, so pretty like, you know, in its day it was like clean. Now it's like kind of basic, but you know, you have the main, you have the color, there's region, he's in Texas. You had the notable placements. I mean, like some of those tournaments don't even exist anymore. Notable victories, like giving him relevance and the X factor. So that was the second one, and then, or sorry, the first one. Then the second one with Ned. Let me know when you have Ned up.
I'll get up in a second.
Yeah, so essentially, like, as the producer, like, as, like, the director for this whole thing, because decisions would come down to me, and I would confer with Alan, and then he would approve, you know? So we'd always get people criticizing this, or criticizing that, or loving this, or loving that. So one of the things immediately we did is, like, you know, actually screw what color palette these players use. There's 50 people. There's 1 billion permutations for what type of character they can use and what color. Let's just add a filter and end with that. Because like Mr. R play Black Sheik, but then he accidentally selects Green Sheik on a tournament and ends up winning a set with that. What does that mean? Or like, you know, Tyrant likes Red Meta Knight, but then he doesn't play Meta Knight. And then so all this stuff. So we added a filter. We made it cleaner. We made it a little poppier. We started adding, you know, we had the sponsor logos before, but we added social media this time. We're able to showcase Geico, and their picture was a little bit more prominent, so it was more character-centered, or less character-centered than before even. So plenty of people, so Ned, so plenty of people copied this design for so many things. This diagonal slit became a norm in tournament promotions and all sorts of stuff. I saw Little Mac Nation make a PR, and they use this exact design. Yeah. It was like, whatever. I mean, you can't be mad, honestly. And now we're at like this one, and like where we are now with the cards, it's just like so funny how much better it looks now because we have like their name, like with their sponsor and their logo. We started to add like how far they drop. So do you have Abadongos up now, McDareth?
Right now.
So just super clean. We started to like show their S tier and A tier wins, categorically showing like how well they do at like different levels of competition. Their set count against the top 50, which helps a lot of people understand like, okay, like these people are a big deal, or, you know, wow, they really have a great set count. You know, in general, they never lose. Like 0 is like 1,000,001. Their X factor, and then an overall score. And the overall score is really cool because we normalized everybody so that 0 was 100. And then it would dip from that. So you could see gaps between players. So like last season, like 0 was 100. The next best player, I have it right here. The next best player
was it Leo?
Yeah, he was, but Leo was an 84.6. So like there's like a 16-point gap between Leo and Zero, but Nairo was a 78.6. Okay, so like a 6-point gap there, you know, kind of. Nairo was a 78.6 and DeBuzz was a 78.4. So now people started to see like their relative gaps between players. We started to add you know, their set count with like the top 10 and then their notable secondary. So now the cards are like beautiful and shit. So it was just ridiculous. I don't even know if I can curse, but whatever.
It's fine mostly.
But again, this started as 3 people. It like I kind of went over the impact. I've kind of gone like really like up topic and stuff like that. But I think that the biggest thing is that the efforts that it took to get it together, like, God, like, because, like, the release would be crazy, like, making the videos were crazy, like, it's so much work, and it's so, like, it's not fulfilling. It's not that it's not fulfilling, it's just that the returns you see on it, it's kind of like, you build a well, right? And you, like, dig this ridiculous hole, you get this construction set up, you get the pulley system, you get all this stuff going, and you did it, and it's like, okay, now you can get water, and that's nice and all, but like, you did a lot of work, but now other people can get water. And that feeling of seeing other people get something is sort of fulfilling in a way, but it was like, the Smash had nothing like this before. Like, not even the closest thing to a ranking, like even Smashboards, which had like, you know, automated rankings and stuff, like nothing had ever been this like esports centered in the sense of like marketing players. And so, you know, taking all that into account, like, it's really difficult to, because we did do a Mortal Kombat PGR, which is like a very little known fact, but we did a Mortal Kombat X PGR right before Injustice 2 released, because the NRS community, you know, NetherRealm Studios, they were moving from Mortal Kombat X to Injustice 2, and so we're like, let's do a PGR for that. We did a top 15, and you know, it was like, it was only 3 videos, like five at a time. It didn't receive that much traction. It was a thing we did. It was kind of cool, but like, it wasn't as crazy. Like, no one really talks about PGR in that community at all, which is fine. But yeah, like, we started to learn a lesson really quickly that Smash is really weird and really unique and really loud. And because of that, all of this was able to work. And when people asked like for PGR and certain things, like someone wanted PGR in Splatoon, other people wanted us PGR in like other games. And the thing is that like Smash is so loud on Twitter and so centralized. And NRS, for example, like they have testermite.com, which has some people. They have the Reddit, which has some people. They do have some Twitter, but it's all over the place. And like, yeah, we're on we're not on Smashboards, but like we are on Reddit, and we are on Twitter mostly. But like the engagements you get from people and like top players being present in those zones are really high for Smash, and not really for other games, except for like Street Fighter, of course. But we found out that like we were able to get like really loud voices, so people would be like, "Yeah, we love this," or "Yeah, we hate this." And really large volumes, so you could tweak everything and make it better. And then we also had it so that, you know, we were talking to commentators, we were talking to players, and people would like ask questions and get to know about it more, so it would get involved in the commentary. Like, there's 2 other ranking systems. There's like the Orion rankings, which is a Reddit-based ranking. It does a top 100. And then there's like the Cloud Live or Cloud Head Live ranking, which is, you know, run by, you know, this really cool guy on Twitter, but it's like live, so it's really hard to take seriously, only because one week someone will win and they're like number 3, but like the PGR is like the whole season, so people get all sorts of like mix-ups because of that. And also ranking Smash Live is really bad because we're so inconsistent, but no one ever talks about those ever, and those people put in a ton of work. I don't know that they deserve or don't deserve any recognition, but it's more so like what's more practical for a community to hinge on, something that's season based, because we also just made up an off season for December where like we're not going to rank anything from the second or the right after 2GC up until the week before Genesis, and that's what we did. We didn't have to confer with anybody on that, except for people running events in those times, making sure there wasn't anything. So we made an off season, and just like that, Smash has its first off season. Top players are now resting until Genesis. Anything they do from now until then doesn't count. So they can experiment, they can travel, they can make content, they can just go to Christmas and Hanukkah and all that without any worries. And that was really just through like building and talking with relationships that span from the top to the bottom and helping people out. So it's had a huge impact. It's changed literally the language and the culture of the entire community, for better on all fronts. I do remember watching Apex 2015, and when like Rain was playing, God, Rain the Sheik, Abadango when he played Pac-Man and Wario.
Oh my God.
You know, people would say like arguably top 10 in the world, and everybody was arguably top 10 in the world, to the point where like 20 people were arguably top 10 in the world. And that made it really difficult for people to speak into like existence, any sort of like storyline, because like everything was muddled because it was opinion based. So everybody would kind of be like, yeah, this person's like top 5. Zero was the only top 1 because like he won everything. But like having the ability to say like 3rd or like 7th or like even 22nd, you know, changed so much for everybody, and it made so many people relevant for like headlines and tournaments. Like the PGR also made it incredible to be a top player, because everybody would want you at their tournaments, because everybody knew that PGR wins were the thing to get. So everybody would try to fly out, all these people, like anybody that like, essentially if you got the PGR, you got like the golden ticket to like the Willy Wonka chocolate factory. And like you were able to just go to this amazing place and enjoy all these benefits. And without people realizing a lot of times, but they'd get a lot of attention. Of course, teams would be interested. Teams do not understand Smash at all. Like from the top teams to like the startup teams, like people think Smash is one game. A lot of times they think Melee and Smash 4 are the same game. People think that this is Brawl. People think that this is Melee. And so when they look in and they don't even understand the basic like setup of the game, but they have this list that shows them like, oh, like these players are top 50 in the world. Okay, well, they must be good. Let's talk to number 20th. It seems like maybe, oh, wow, they're in Canada. We have a connection there. Let's talk to them. So it changed everything. And having the backing of a team like Panda also changed everything, because like I said, like the Reddit, you know, rankings is top 100, and they could do the craziest stats and everything, but it doesn't get support because it's not backed by anything, unfortunately. But yeah, it changed everything. And when you shift your focus to Pokken, you know, how a ranking system would similarly be developed, like I have my own, not reservations, but like my own concerns, because I think that similar to Mortal Kombat, Pokken is a little spread out, I think, between just Twitter and other different like social media outlets. And getting people together to support something and push it is a lot more difficult when it's like also a smaller community. Well, it's easy to people to get it for them to adopt it, but like the impact's a little different. And like people think that other scenes should be like Smash, but like Mortal Kombat's biggest tournaments when we did the PGR, Mortal Kombat, a game that had developer support, like Mortal Kombat tournaments had developer support. They had like $100,000 prize pools. Like that's how Sonic Fox is like got most of his money.
Like $500,000 at this point, I think.
Yeah, and Mortal Kombat tournaments would peak at like 150, 128 person brackets. Evo had like 300 or 400 people, and then everything in between, like their sagas or saga type events, like anything that was like a big national monthly, it'd be like 80, 90 people. Like that was high for them. And people think of Smash and it's like, if a tournament just have like 500 people, it's a failure, it's shambles. And it's like, it's so like, we're not normal. Like we're like a really loud, crazy minority. That's like the minority majority. And when people try to scale the rates of success for their own scene of different games, like Rivals or Icons or whatever, like the other platform fighters, and they try to think that like it can be like Smash, like you'll never get a Smash Con style event for many of these scenes, because like Smash is this very funny IP Frankenstein that just has so much for everybody, and it has such a low barrier, but also like a really high barrier for like the top players, that like there's always something for everybody. And like I was in a chat with Punk. I mean, Punk's in PG. Like we're in the PG chat, and like Abadongo won at 2GGC finals, and he was like, "Who's this Mewtwo guy?" Instant follow, and he shouted Abadongo out on Twitter. Punk the god, who like literally almost won Evo, saw Mewtwo, didn't know anything else, followed Abadongo, shouted him out. There was like a bridge connected there, and then also while Elegant was winning, he was like, "This Luigi's hot," and like he supported. And like it's easy to think about Luigi, it's easy to think about Mewtwo, it's easy to think about Samus, Link, like all those things. So like Smash is crazy and it's weird, but like other scenes can also achieve success, and it won't be as crazy. You know, you might not get Sunday Evo, but I still think you can do a lot of things within your scene so that people have a good time. Because as it stands, like we are on a newer console with Pokken, so that brings a lot of benefits. And I think that honestly, like when the Smash Switch is announced, you will see the potential really, really high for there to be more crossover, because it is really tough to get like a Pokken tournament set up when like no one really has Switches to the extent that everybody has Wii U's, because Wii U's are an older console, and you can have like one Wii U to like 4 people playing doubles. So it's a little hard because of the format as well. But bringing it all down to, I think like the PGR could help something like Pokken. I think it could, definitely. I think a top 50 is way too big for Pokken.
I was gonna ask you that, because I remember before I was getting your advice on different things when they were like first working on it, and you're like, yeah, top 50 is too much. I thought it was kind of funny that both the first two are top 50.
So for perspective, in our database, like, so we import tournaments, right? We put Genesis, we put Smash, we put all these tournaments. We get unique IDs for every entrant. So where people are like, you know, thousands or tens of thousands of Smashers compete every year, they're just adding like the entrants to all these tournaments. But like, there's definitely like the same people going to the same tournaments, right? Like for them, like 0 counts like 10 times because he's gone to 10 tournaments. But for us, like 0 counts once. So like in terms of like getting numbers. So we were able to get like around 6,000 to 7,000 unique competitors in Smash for 2017. So if you take like the top 50 out of that, it's like less than the 1%. It's like the top 1%. So Pokken, I don't think has those numbers. So if you scale it back like a little bit more, kind of like what we did with Mortal Kombat, where I think you have like similar, if not like less numbers. Like I think like a top 10 or a top 15 is like totally fine, or like a top 10 with like 5 honorable mentions or whatever. People want us in Smash to do like a top 100, but like there's no statistical method to produce like a top 100 reliably, because we have people from all over the country, all over the world, competing at different frequencies for different amounts of time, and it's just like a mess. But what I would suggest, actually, and this is an aside, is I don't see anything wrong with Pokken employing a ballot system for their rankings, because statistically, like, you know, what would really change at that point? Practical Task actually found through a lot of research that nothing really ever came as close to accurate as balloting does to getting an actually good ranking. You'd have to set up a really robust panel. You'd have to do a lot of stats on the votes you get. So you have to like look for outliers. You have to like, you know, if someone rates somebody a 1, but also somebody else rates that same person an 8. Like there's obviously something going on there. But it's a very simple way and a very cool way to involve everybody that could work. And you can combine it with stats, so you can do objective if you want to do an X Factor sort of thing, or if you want to combine them and do a 50-50, it's up to you. But I don't see anything wrong with that personally. The only reason we don't do it in Smash is because people in Smash are really, really obsessive over anything. Like people think Elegant's top 10 right now, which he might be. I mean, I think he's definitely top 20, but like he's definitely not top 10 like as easily as some of these other players who like all season have essentially gotten the results he's had. You know what I mean? Like Mr. R beat 0, and like Mr. R did really well at these other events, but like he's obviously overshadowed. Same thing as Cosmos, who beat 0 in Salem at Big House, but like what has he done the rest of the season comparably? So I think they're both like top 25, top 20 players, but for people like voting and putting together a list now, like the finals are so fresh in their minds, so like you definitely have to pull that back. But since Pokken doesn't have like too many events, and maybe it's more level-minded. I mean, I found the Pokken community to be incredibly welcoming and very warm. You could implement something like that, and I think that if the PGR were to set its sights on Pokken, for whatever reason, like it could do a lot for the community. It's just whether or not the community needs that right now, because I think, if anything, the community needs more focus on like how do we get competitors and how do we get healthy tournament sizes, whether it's online or offline, because there's always that obstacle of the setups. Every time you run into like these theories, it's always the setups you got to take into account. So
exactly. I guess we can use that as a good segue here, not to cut you off too much.
Before we switch, so you talked about, because you went over the designs of the Smash 4. I sent you something on Twitter, Suar. You went over the designs of the like Smash 4 style of like cards. So I wanted your opinion on like what they did for this past season of Pokken. So I sent you like Bola bars, and it'll pop up on the stream in a second, unless I can put it in Skype. Yeah, I just sent it to you.
You sent it on Twitter?
Twitter, yeah, not Skype.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So you're asking me what?
Just thoughts about how it's laid out, things you changed to it, comparing it to like what you've learned from the PGR and making the ones for that, because it's obviously inspired by that.
Yeah, so like it's cool. It's got a win rate. It's got all this other stuff. It's got the tournaments, but you don't know what they look like or whether or not they're on a team. I'm guessing they're not on a team.
Oh no, they're for the ones who are on teams. They have it. It was the easiest one to pull up was this one.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty. It's nice. Like adding a person, adding like a nice shot like Tish photo or like a nice tempo Rob, like just really notable photographers in the community of FGC and all. Adding a photo really helps. Like a personal photo of them playing. I think it's good. I mean, it's like you said, it's very similar. The only problem is I don't know how much each of these tournaments mattered. One of them is literally a trash bag and a trash can.
Oh, I forget what that one is called. It's
Trash Day.
Yeah, Texas Trash Day.
Yeah, so like now you're talking about like tiering tournaments, and that's got its own thing, but like it's nice that there's like a dream hack. So like if you're looking at this, you're like, whoa, this is at dream hack. Well, which dream hack was it? Was it dream hack Europe or dream hack Atlanta or Denver or Colorado? So it definitely helps to like localize the results to like things that people understand. That's why Genesis could be pretty good, because like if you get like a first out of Genesis and people understand what a Genesis is, and they look at this, they could be like, oh, this player is really good, because like you don't just go to Genesis isn't just like a monthly. So as much as perspective that you can add so that you can show this to someone, because like a lot of things that I would do actually is that I'd show the player card to people not in Smash. Like I'd show it to my friends from college or be like, hey, I'm making this thing, how does this look? And they'd be like, oh wow, that's really cool, or oh wow, that's really confusing, or what's an X factor, or what's this, or like what's that. And you kind of get like a sense for like, a lot of people don't, like a lot of people that follow Smash don't follow Smash in the same way that a lot of us do, where like we have hypersensitivity to like a lot of details and like a lot of things. Like you'll have people be like, oh yeah, like such and such hasn't played all season. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like they got 25th, 33rd, and like 49th at these events. And then it's like, a lot of people don't look past top 8. A lot of people don't even look past who won the tournament. So like you have to take into account that a lot of people, because you think like this is like something that you come to every day, like from work or from school, like you're thinking about Pokken, you're thinking about the community, you're thinking about all this stuff, but like you have to like not dumb it down, but you have to make it so accessible to someone who like plays Pokken and maybe went to like a weekly and then maybe went to like Genesis and like went like 2 and 2 and had fun and then put it down for like a couple weeks, and then there's a new patch and let's say they release Greninja and then they download Greninja and they're playing a little bit again, and now they hear about these rankings and it's got to be like super accessible for them. Like you got to have tournaments they recognize, or at least break it down so that they can understand it. You know, maybe where they are on the totem pole. Like, they are number 20th, but I don't know, like, how reputable 20th is if, like, they're 26 and 15. Because, like, to me, like, are those 26 wins all on the top 10? Or are they on everybody? Like, so there's just, like, a lot of stuff, like top 10 wins or notable wins. You know, has this person beaten Alistair? Like, I only know Alistair because of, you know, Nintendo Versus events. Like, if he's beaten Alistair, now I care about Bolomar. So that's really helpful to do. That's why it was so important. Like, anytime people beat Zero, like, that made entire careers sometimes.
Made entire Twitches too.
Yeah, in the beginning, like, and it's crazy because, like, back then beating Zero would give you, like, bunches of followers, and then, like, Latai did it, and like
5,000.
Yeah, he didn't get. He got like a bunch. Other people do it now. It's like, yeah, you know. So that's what I would add. But again, like, you know, I think that it's really cool to have it, at least as like a nice directory. But, you know, beyond that, it's like, you know, focusing on the like offline and like the community and the tournament definitely should take priority for now, in my opinion. And you should cut it down to top 10 for sure. Top 50 is way too much.
There you go. Well, you guys heard it here first, my friend. The insight to all of PGR, the man behind it. Thank you, first of all, for sharing all your thoughts there. It's a lot of information I don't think you've ever released on a public level like this. So appreciate you for showing up and talking about the PGR. Definitely, I learned so much that I'm actually super excited to go talk to people about, you know, PGR and its creation, because I don't think a lot of people know about it anymore. But either way, let's move on briefly here, because we have a couple minutes left of our show today. So I want to hit a couple more topics before we head out. So quickly, a lot of debate was sparked in the community with our previous guest of the show, Roxo. And basically what he had talked about is now that, you know, NEC is coming up, and it's the last funded tournament from the Evo pot. There's going to be no more 1K prize pots after NEC. So we kind of want to talk about for a minute here, what is the future of Pokken going to look like without the big events being big events for money? I know that, you know, Suar, of course, you have experience with Smash, and maybe other FGCs you've been involved with, MKX, obviously, with that. So, I mean, anybody here now, it's open. What do you guys think about tournaments with no longer having prize pools? How can we boost attendance? And, you know, like Suar said, we have this like tight-knit community of like the top players, the top guys, the top maybe 50, 60 people who are always in Discord every day. What about the rest of the people that play every now and then, are interested in the game, watch the events, but don't really travel? How do we get those guys to come to our events to grow the community if there's no longer $1,000 on the line?
I didn't go last.
All right, let's talk McDareth and Kino. What are your guys' thoughts? Let's bounce back here.
So my biggest thing when I first read this, I was just surprised that this is like a thing in Pokken. I guess I'm also heavily from Smash, so I'm just used to going to tournaments and there's no bonus. You just play, and then you know, a lot of people don't win, so it doesn't matter if the bonus is there or not.
That's true.
And then someone walks away with a lot. But in Pokken, it's like a flip. Because I remember, like, Abadango got one place lower in Pokken than he did Smash, but he had one more money in Pokken at CEO.
At CEO.
Yeah,
That's funny.
Just because of the,
by like
the pot
$200.
bonus. Yeah. Just because of, like, the pot bonus. He won so much more in Pokken, but it's like, I guess because Pokken is already, and we even talked about before we started, is like, you know, the Suicune Masters won $10,000 in Pokken alone. Just because of the prize pool that Pokemon Company is putting into it. So it's just like, and right above him is Tonosama at 13,000.
Right.
But it's just like that prize pool being injected in is making it's like so much money. I guess people are so used to seeing it, and then like when they weren't here, then Evo was doing like the 1K prize pool, so players could go to those. And like Roxo's biggest fear with this, and I kind of agree, it's worrisome thinking about it that this is an issue, which didn't really seem like it at first to me. Is like there was a period in between. I don't want to call it season 2, but like season 1.5. Because all it was CEO. But in between there was like a period of where everything kind of died down. Like interest seemed like it waned. People weren't going to as much. So it seems like he's worried that if, you know, when the Evo Pop bonus is now gone, and like, you know, DreamHack's not going to have 1K, you know, Big E's events will have 1K, are people still going to go?
So I would like to think so, man. What's that?
What I would say to that is, you know, Pokken, a lot of people compare a lot of different fighting game communities to the Smash community, like Suar was saying before, and you really can't do that, and definitely not with Pokken. You know, even if we were going to continue getting, you know, these extra pop bonuses from Evo, no one's making a living, you know, playing Pokken. No one's quitting their job and going to have a career playing Pokken. I have some personal experience talking to some people who have, you know, expressed the point of view of, well, if this tournament doesn't have a pop bonus, I'm not going to go. You can't go to a tournament, or just people in general. The thing I would say to those people is you really can't go to a tournament just based on the merits of how much you can possibly be winning. It sounds a little cheesy, but you need to be going these tournaments for the passion of the game. If you really, you know, if you love the game, if you just enjoy the game, you don't even love it. If you just like the game and you know, enjoy the community, which is generally why I go out to events, you know, that should be the goal, is just, you know, seeing people playing some Pokken, have a good time, supporting the scene, not, you know, which tournament has, you know, which tournament's going to have a pop bonus. Because if that happens, I see where Roxo's coming from with his concerns, and it definitely it's a scary thought that we could have another kind of lull in the community, especially because the main reason that the community picked back up again was once DX was announced on the Switch. Guess what? Nintendo's not coming out with another console anytime soon, so that saving factor is not gonna be there if, you know, if this happens again. So I don't think this is that much of a concern with, you know, the mid-level players and, you know, even a lot of high-level players. But, you know, the top-level players in our community, I know all of them are super passionate about the game. They wouldn't be where they are now if they weren't. But, you know, they have to keep, you know, keep that fire alive, you know, and keep supporting the game and hopefully growing the game until we get to a point where we've grown enough that we've earned, you know, extra pop bonuses, and we've earned, you know, larger tournaments, even to the point where, you know, you can, you know, have a good prize pool even without a huge pop bonus. But we need to get to that point, and we need to work to get to that point, and not just expect, you know, something to give that to us, whether it be Evo or the Pokemon Company or whatever. We can't just wait for handouts, because, you know, we'll die.
Right.
That's my perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, like, we also got to keep in mind that like $1,000 is not a lot.
Right.
$1,000 in like adult money is really like $300 after bills, and also to like play to sustain yourself is not. I mean, that's just bad news. You see it in the Smash community all the time. Players that like quit school or do this or that to like play more Smash, and that's all really ill-advised, misguided. But you know, what are you gonna do? But something that we were able to witness throughout our study of so many tournaments, because we had to study like what makes a tournament, one, matter, and also two, like a desirable destination. And what we saw were like a little different of like an example from like what you consider like a normal tournament, what you consider to be like a breakout, like must attend legacy event, and also some like newer formats that like actually really did really well despite not having what you would think would make like a great event. So right off the bat, pop bonuses are not good for any tournament attendance incentive. When you say pop bonus, you're really talking to like, if you had a room of 10 people, and if like the Pokken community was a room of 10 people and you say pop bonus, you're only talking to one person, like the top 10% when you say pop bonus. When you say pop bonus, you're just talking to people who like actually have a shot, which is not very many, and that's all. And so you're only catering to them, you're appealing to them. It's a lot of money to go to one person. $1,000 can go towards potentially getting more setups, potentially getting food for the attendees, which is like not something anyone does. But let's say you had like it's so small, you can do like, you know, like $200 and like, you know, you pay your registration and you also get like a meal ticket and like all this stuff. $1,000 can pay for setups that you don't have to keep asking people to bring. $1,000 can pay for production, which is not a lot in production money. That's like not even like a tenth of a real camera. But, you know, $1,000 to like pay your volunteers, $1,000 to do so much, from buying more tables, buying more space, getting a better venue, getting more staff. But people like Because in Smash, what happens is that people fall into the trap of thinking that they need top players to have a stream that's that's gonna get clicked, that gets numbers that are gonna be justifiable to whatever, a sponsor deck or a potential investor, whoever, and then people are gonna want to go because those top players are there, and that in a way is kind of trickle down economics, which doesn't work in real life and doesn't work here either, because we have 10 examples of that with the sagas happening in SoCal all year. And the sagas had, for reasons apart from just being every month and in just SoCal, which meant like there was a lot of like, you know, over centralization, but also just exhaustion from attending. Yeah. The events weren't go-tos for anybody but just people who wanted a shot at the money. So you'd see a number in the 200s or 300s, where Abadango Saga last year, which didn't have a pop bonus, had like 400 and something people, 500 people. There hasn't been a saga like that all year, except for like, yeah, I don't even think Civil War reached those numbers. I think it only reached like 400. But again, but then you have SmashCon and Frostbite and Shine, 3 tournament models that came about in the recent past, that SmashCon is just like the tournament to go to. You get to interact with people. There's like sanctioned time for signings, cosplay contests, panels. I even gave a panel. We did the Smashies last year, which is a really funny, cheesy thing. There are like I said, meet and greets. There's contests, and there's a tournament. So you basically hit everybody. And there's also just like merch and art on a scale that, you know, it's just no other artist alley can be, because it's like a dedicated thing. And there's so much to do for everybody. Like, you see families go to that. And when I went, I saw families. And that's so important, because a family is a vehicle by which you can spawn so many like avenues for support, where like if a parent wants to take a kid to a tournament, like you've won on so many levels without realizing it. And that's like unfortunately not tapped into enough, because people don't think that way. But you never saw parents at sagas unless it was like a super special case, like Elegant's mom or something, or like Dynamo's mom, Dynamom. But you know, like again, like what's there to do at a saga after your first wave? And they started doing waterfall brackets. They started doing like things like that, and they learned, and that was cool. I know that Fire Emblem Saga had like normal, classic, and lunatic mode. So like lunatic mode was like the eventual pro bracket, and then if you stayed in normal, like you just kept playing. So that's cool. Like, what will my registration money do? So that's why we also saw legacy events decline in attendance this year, because even though they don't have pop bonus, they do have that legacy branding. But legacy branding doesn't mean anything to a lot of people even then, because there's so many other tournaments you could just go to in general that are essentially the same hotel ballroom, 18-foot beer pong table anyways of an experience. Like, Big House is pretty forgettable this year for Smash 4, amazing for Melee, and that's because we just have so many tournaments to like pick and choose from, that the legacy experience doesn't hold any value. But it also doesn't attract a lot of attendance, and we saw a dip of like 50 or 100 people from last year to this year, which is concerning, because that's Big House. But pop bonuses, I think, in Pokken are wildly inappropriate, only because, like, if that's why you're going to a tournament in the first place, and like a lot of the values you're holding are kind of illegitimate, and also,
yeah, definitely,
like it's just a little silly. It's like a little silly, only because like it's kind of like locals in Smash that start out and they like want to get a stream, and they want to get commentators and all this stuff, because like they remember the Xanadu days when Xanadu would get like 9,000 viewers and stuff, like on a Tuesday, like, which is crazy. And it's like they fail to think or consider like the time and scale it takes to like achieve those things, and also the clout needed, because like they have VGBC branding, all that other stuff, instead of focusing on like, okay, well, like, how can I make this like valuable to everybody that's here? Like my local game store, Grid Games, run by Paper Fairy, or used to be. Paper Fairy works for Smash EG now, but he's a good friend. And, you know, we get like 20 to 25 people attending, which is like a pretty like okay local, but it's like fun, because the bracket would end in like, you know, pretty soon, in like 3 hours essentially, or less. But what he started doing was he'd do pools. Like he'd do pools with us. So like there'd be like 3 or 4, 5-person pools, and it'd be round robin, and then top 2 get out. And like now I'm playing Smash like for longer, and a tournament set, and like the $10 I paid to like get in and enter is like totally worth it, you know? And for people who like don't make it out, they still play more and they learn a lot. So like there's even different formats you can use to like get people to like want to go and want to do it. Like the main reason I haven't gone to Balance Patch in Boston is one, because it's in Boston, but two, because like I know like if I go, it's like, you know, 10 or so people, and like I look online and it's double elimination. It's like, why do I want to go to double elimination when I could just play online for like 5 hours with Sage in California, a friend of mine. So like a pop bonus, like in that sense, like still doesn't talk to me. Even if, for example, they set up $100 and they're like, hey, $100 nights of or $100 saved for Balance Patch, come one, come all. Because like I know I'm not very like amazing at the game, so I'm probably not gonna have a shot at that. But if they said that there's like a raffle, or if like they're giving away other prizes to everybody, or that there's gonna be, for whatever reason, food, or there's gonna be like whatever, like something that just incentivizes people, like that'll make me go much more than just like a tournament. Because the only reason I want to go now is to compete, but like I also don't want to go because there's not too many people, which then is like a vicious cycle because everybody thinks that. So it's kind of like a party when you want to go to a party. Well, who's there? And it's like, well, no one's there yet. Well, I'm not going to go. But everyone else is asking that question, so nobody goes. So I think Pokken will do fine with or without pop bonuses. I think that the biggest thing everybody's forgetting is that you are on a new console. You're on a console that has an eShop that is more active than any other eShop, I think, in a recent history of eShops. And people consistently have to scroll or see Pokken, and it's a AAA title. And there's so much to like, you know, do out of that. Like online, I think, is like what needs to be done right now for Pokken. There's plenty of successful Smash tournaments that are online. Like look at Knifeu. Like why is Knifeu War successful? Like there's no reason for that to be successful other than Nairo like putting up a tournament every month. But like it's a thing and people enter, and like there's been tons of things that happen through it. So even if it's like an online tournament for Pokken, like, or a circuit that you can like easily build, you know, like that's hype. And like you can drop that in a forum and you don't even have to meet these people, and like they might be interested, versus like, hey, come to this venue with your Switch and like you've never been. Because like I think Pokken involves a lot of people that haven't really had the offline experience so far, or maybe at all, because maybe it's their first fighting game veiled as like a Pokemon game. So there's so much to still learn from that like $1,000 for Alistair or Twixie or somebody is like, that doesn't do anything for anybody except them too. So
right,
those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that.
I was gonna say that we do like online events, but the thing is, like, there's no way for us to stream that. That's the kind of kicker. Like what happens now is like in the Discord, they run online events and people who are in it will stream themselves running it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I did discover. Like it's kind of bad you can't stream it. Like
we need
Smash,
lobbies, we need spectator mode, we need something.
Yeah,
to produce that.
I know that really does bite. And that's not even like I was trying to fault you guys in the beginning for not doing it, but I do remember.
No, but it's a good point though. It's a good avenue.
Yeah, I was talking to Sage about it, and like, yeah, like we have like 4 players, so you can just get one as Jiggly, and then the other 2 wait, and then 3, 2, 1. And it's a very janky way of setting it up, but you do get that third person who's impartial be able to stream it. So that's unfortunate. I mean, like there is, at least what is also cool is that you do have developers that do factor in, like if they're able to add recording to training mode and all these other new things that like have kind of been brought about by feedback. Like I don't see this so much beyond the realm of possibility. It just needs to be like, I don't know who their people are. Like Smash is weird because like we don't have any interface with Nintendo, but like I think Pokken has somebody in a studio that they can talk to, or like be the ambassador for, or Alistair can use his megaphone for. Like that's the other thing too, is like you have to rally together as like a collective, and I think like you guys are already, but like even more so. Like this is our agenda, these are people that can get the biggest reach. Let's talk, let's set this up, because like it won't happen otherwise.
So I think that is kind of merging with our last topic that we were going to talk about today, which don't have a ton of time for. We do have to wrap this up fairly soon. But last little point here. There's 2 topics I want to merge together. Is you did just kind of analyze right here the things we need as a community to grow. And yeah, I think we have discussed the whole pot bonus issue thoroughly now. So what other things from our community can we provide, McDareth and Kino, that we think can help us grow? Because we do a lot of these events, a lot of these tournaments. We're streaming on our classic streams are great streamers in the community. We have HBA. We had Once Upon a Time in Yamura. We have all these streamers of Basket Pokken. We have, I'm not going to go on and name a bunch because I don't want to leave anybody out. But if you're a Pokken streamer who stream Pokken tournaments, we recognize your efforts. We've been here for so long now. But the one thing that Pokken needs is more exposures to other communities. We've had a little bleed through from Smash to Pokken, but to get from one stage to another where we have such a more general population of people playing Pokken, people attending events, we need these big streamers to, pick up events. What if Team Spooky or VGBC or T2GG? These guys, have a hand in Pokken. I know there was talk at some point about 2GG running a Pokken saga, a Pokemon saga. And that kind of came and went, and I'm sure they've talked about it. It's in the works. Who knows? But until then, like kind of Suar said here, is until Smash is ported onto the Switch, until it's announced, we don't have a lot of guys running around with Switches in their pockets, ready to play Pokken at all times. So until we become the more accessible game, what things can we do as a community that really pushes our numbers at events, pushes our community itself into the more general population? Because people love Pokemon, people love fighting games. It should be a no-brainer. It's freaking Pokemon and fighting, just throw them together. It should be a platinum selling game immediately with a ton of event entries and everything. But it's sold. I mean, it outsold a lot of really popular games, but yet tournament entries and people who are attending and participating in the overall community, aren't as strong as the awkward, weird community that is Smash. What things do you think we can do until we can start merging the more general population of the Smash players into Pokken?
Well, I would just say that it really honestly just comes down to its format being having to require 2 consoles and 2 TVs. That just ends up being the bottom line with almost every scenario you try to run. I think aside from just uniting a sort of council informally and getting an agenda and supporting each other through that sense, even streamers Shofu, I remember, made huge move set videos on different Pokemon, content creators. Content creation is content creation is really important, but content creation right now is also really tough. There's no money in that for anybody, even good YouTubers. There's so much going on in adpocalypse and all this other stuff. But DBZ Fighters is coming out, and it's got the interest of everybody because it's DBZ, which holds so near and dear to all of us, but it's also 2D. So even regardless of it being a good game or not, it's going to be so accessible to everybody, and they're going to play it. And I can imagine tournaments for that happening all the time. Who would be running it? It'd probably be FGC and all that, but it's also going to be hype. But it comes down to that format. It's unfortunate, and I don't know how to go around that necessarily, aside from literally causing the loudest and most eccentric population to all get Switches because they get Smash. And until Pokken becomes a staple side event, because right now there's a lot of untapped potential for sure. When it comes to events only do Smash, sometimes they do rivals and people have laptops set out because there's the interest. But Pokken, as soon as it's on, as soon as Smash is on the Switch, and now everybody has to have a Switch, there's more of a potential scenario for people to be oh, are you gonna go to the Smash tournament? Yeah. Hey, did you hear they have a Pokken side event? I never played it. Oh, let me try it. And now all of a sudden you don't even need to really do much. So
right. That's the whole accessibility leads to people attending events, people being interested.
And that's not something exactly you can count on or plan for, because who knows when they would release the Smash thing. If it doesn't happen until the end of 2018, and then until then you're just kind of twiddling your thumbs, there's other stuff you can still do concerning attracting locals and raising money to buy Switches and setups. I mean, I don't know, it's really tough, I think the future of a lot of Nintendo games rely on like these events where you can play multiple games. So like you can have a Mario Kart and a Pokken and a Smash tournament wrapped in one. You pay an entry to like have entry to all five or something. I don't know. Like that's what I would imagine. Like Splatoon. I mean, I haven't even really seen much Splatoon talk anywhere.
Yeah, I haven't seen any after like the first week or two of it being out.
Yeah, and I remember getting it, and I loved it, and then I just kind of like played online, but there's no offline Splatoon at all, and that's a game you could just take your Switch and go. But again, it's just it's tough. Like I think you can still achieve success. It's just not going to be like an Evo Sunday, and that's fine. It's just very strange. It's a very strange like community you have to like consistently compare to, and not get like hung up on it.
Right.
So yeah,
there you go.
Because back when like Pokemon was on the Wii U, that's something I always was hoping would be a push. That's why I was happy that it's at Genesis, because like to me this is finally a Smash event besides Apex, having Pokken there. And I remember how big Apex was. Like Pokken at Apex in the grand final is really good with oh no,
it was the Charizard.
No,
was it? No, it was Catfight.
It was Catfight. Oh no, I'm gonna.
Do you want me to tell you, or you want to figure it out? Because I got it.
Tell him.
Sure.
Cyber, right?
Yeah, Cyberman. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, Cyberman versus Catfight. Like that final was very good, and like I remember a lot of people that didn't watch Pokken watched that, and they're like, "Wow, I want to play this game." And then like I haven't heard that from a Pokken event in a long time. Because a lot of like that's my thing. Is like I want it to be on the more open.
It was an SCR.
Oh yeah, no, but SCR was on Enimura. Oh no, that was a different one. NCR. Right.
SCR was still small, but even then it was. I thought it was cool.
Pokken got pretty good attention at SCR. Also, it was definitely a lot of fun to watch, and also at DreamHack, the DreamHack like right after that, we saw like Captain Zack and Abadongo from the Smash community playing.
And Game Tyrant Expo.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, that's what it was. Not DreamHack. Yeah, GTX. Those are like right next to each other, I think. So probably I was confusing them. But yeah, like that I think that's another thing that is definitely helpful. Is I always love seeing, these, big personalities from other games, involved in the Pokken scene. Literally, the local I ran last night, for about an hour and a half or so. TK Breezy was chilling on our stream watching Jin's Darkrai because TK, that's one of the characters he plays. So I think that's always really cool to see the support from these other big personalities in the Smash community and other fighting game communities as well.
Right.
I don't know. TK expressed interest in wanting to start commentating Pokken.
Right. Yeah, he did
a few times.
He would be good too. If he like gets that game knowledge, he would definitely be really good.
Yeah, I remember in the very beginning, I was casting at Wednesday Night Fights, and Tasty Steve reached out to me and was like, "Hey man, like thinking about coming next week for Pokken casting." I'm like, "Hell yeah, man, I'll see you there." Him and I exchanged a bunch of like Twitter DMs for like a while, just like talking about the game. He was super interested in wanting to cast, and then he just ended up not coming through to cast. But big cast like that, big name in the very beginning, like D1 and I would cast a lot of the Pokkens, the Wednesday Night Fights together, because he was showing interest in the game, and I know D1 does come to a lot of Pokken events. He was at SCR.
He didn't
cast. Yeah, I mean, he goes to all these events
and worlds,
and he loves Pokken. He's actually a really good player, and he is casting, every now and then. But having bigger exposure with these bigger caster names, bigger stream names, that gets people interested. Because if I go to a Smash scene and say, "Yo, D1's casting Pokken right now," they're like, "What?" And they're gonna want to go and tune in, listen to their boy D1 casting Pokken. Might get them interested, and then while watching the event, it's a tie. It's one thing that's connecting to the community that they didn't have before. If they tune into a stream and they hear maybe myself and or like people that's not even connected to the Smash community at all, like let's say it's like Milne and H2. These guys aren't known anywhere else except for Pokken. So it's like when a Smash player tunes into a stream with two unknown players with a game they're unfamiliar with, they might not stick around. But you have guys like D1, like guys like from other fighting games casting these bigger events on channels like Level Up Live or 2GG or any of these bigger streams. That would be sick. It's more exposure, more ties to other communities. I think at the end of the day, it's just more exposure for our community. Because I think one thing that Pokken is really, really good at is banded together as a community for our community. But what about the people who aren't quite there yet? The guys that aren't in our Discord talking, the guys that aren't showing up to all these events. Those are the guys we want to talk to. Those are the guys we want to get in. So that that whole thing is a whole other issue. We could talk for hours on this, but if we want to wrap this up, any final thoughts here with the Pokken community? Because I mean, at the end of the day, I love the community. We talk about this so much that our community itself has gone through so much duty caca to be esports here over the past couple of years, from season 1 to now, with support, lack of support, whatever it is. We've gone through so much stuff, and at the end of the day, the one thing we have always had and the one thing I'll always support is the community itself that is already existing is just phenomenal. We don't stop anywhere. We're constantly looking to what we can produce next, what event can we host next, how can we sneak into these big tournaments. And Alistair doing crazy things. We're on Jinx TV. I forget who took that spot this last week. Someone was on UK TV, like a TV show. So we're being out there. We're making all of these steps. And I guess my last word here today on the Ferrum podcast, which by the way, thank you everybody for tuning in and staying with us. My last little piece here is, regardless of what we have and where we're going and what's going to be released on Switch next, the one thing that we need to remember is that at the end of the day, we're all having fun playing a game that we all love. And as long as we're continuously supporting your local events, supporting these big events like NEC Genesis coming up, the community will naturally grow. It's up to us to show it in a good light. It's up to us to prove that we're a community here to stay. And at the end of the day, that's really what matters. Having fun, being a community, and making friendships and being here for a reason. So that's my last bit. What do you guys got?
Go to your locals.
Go to your locals, my friends.
And go to your majors.
Go to everything.
We're gonna add that in now.
Make friends. Attend things.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
awesome.
People want to say where people can reach you before we close out?
That's why.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at PG_Suar. Really active on there. I actually realized the other day, like, I don't post on Facebook anymore. I like posted on Facebook I was gonna be at like 2GGC for this like segment thing, and I got like 3 like likes or something. I was like, I don't even go on this anymore. I just retweet, or not even retweet. I share whatever, just memes. I don't even use Facebook for anything except chat. And it's just like, yeah, you can reach me on Twitter. I'm pretty active there. Talk to me all the time. And if you want to get in touch about anything or need advice, I'll probably tell you what to do because I've already done it and failed at it. So
that's something my 8th grade science teacher told me many years ago. It's don't learn from your mistakes. Learn from other people's mistakes. Literally the best advice.
That's help.
Smart.
If you want to learn from this man, advice, he's got tons of information. So again, Suar, thank you so much for sharing your insight. I learned a lot more than I thought I was going to learn today, which is just freaking awesome. I'm probably going to rewatch the VOD because it was just so much information. So thank you again for being with us here today. I know you're a busy guy. And so with that, if you guys got nothing, thank you so much for tuning into Ferrum podcast, the 3rd one of its kind. I'm looking forward to do many, many more. And if you have topics you would like to see on the next Ferrum podcast, please let us know. You can message any of us on Twitter or anywhere, or pretty much talk on the Discord. We'll hear your advice, hear your input. So let us know what you want to hear next on next month's or next edition of Ferrum Heights podcast. And of course, you can find all of us on Twitter. I'm at Rudafuda, so that's pretty. Where are you guys? Where can we find you guys?
At Elevate Kino.
Hey, you find me at McDareth.
There you go. Easy peasy, my friend. So until next time, that's the last thing I got. Thank you so much for tuning in, McDareth. Do your thing. Close your stream out. This is on you. Thanks, everybody, again, for tuning in. We'll see you next time.